Earlier this week, I went to the University of Texas and I underwent a bunch of studies with their professors to find out why might I be the world's strongest man. I'm not the biggest, I'm not the most muscular, I'm not by any metric that's measured to date anything unique, but I find a way to win strongman competitions on a regular basis. So one of the people I went down to, his name is Dr. Coyle, and Dr. Coyle is a world-renowned person when it comes to things like muscular power. Now, I broke a world record with Dr. Coyle, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But let me talk to you about what exactly we were doing. Dr. Coyle looks at maximal power, and he argues that if you do repeated maximal efforts where you only get to maximal power and that's all you do, this takes between 1 and 4 seconds, and you repeat this, it actually is better for your health or equal to doing zone 2 long, slow cardio. His argument is that fast twitch muscle fibers don't get trained during those slow cardio times, and that fast twitch fibers get trained when you're going to maximum power. If you train those fast twitch fibers, they respond really, really quickly. He told me almost to the point where if you do one bout a week, something will come in terms of positive adaptation. So he's developed this bike. This bike's called the Power Cycle, and the Power Cycle measures power in every single moment that you're on the bike. It has a heavy flywheel, and as you push around this flywheel, its inertia and its speed is what's going to determine your maximum power. How much can you accelerate this flywheel and how fast can you do it is going to be representative of your power. In fact, it mathematically is your power. Now, me being me, when I got onto this bike, I asked, what is the best you've seen all time, the best result? And he said 2,400 watts. This falls largely in line with all of the other data and information that's come out of maximum power that I know of, where cycling max power at 2,400, 2,500 watts, that is basically the largest that's been recorded. Now, I hop on the bike, and I had a different experience.
Good.
59?
Yeah, so that's good, yeah. I think one more?
Sure, yeah. We'll finish it out.
Yeah, this is good, very consistent.
Oh, it teased me.
It's
Teased me.
It's like the slot machine.
Yeah. Cool.
Very good.
All right.
Yeah. So this is an estimate for you. To really capture you, we need a bigger flywheel.
Because this is too light.
Too light,
So
yeah.
my results would probably be higher with a heavier flywheel.
Could be. Yeah.
Almost certainly would be, right?
You got this thing spinning. I'm
Well,
still.
actually, students, what do you guys reckon? Almost certainly higher?
Almost certainly.
Almost certainly. Yeah.
I'm still trying to absorb, process the high numbers here.
Yeah.
You know, above 2,000.
If your best ever was 2,400 and I hit 6,800, our entire objective today is to figure out how am I the world's strongest man, despite not being the most muscular, or the largest person, or the statically strongest. This is the closest thing we have to an answer.
Right.
Tripling nearly the best result on this bike ever.
Yeah.
It's cool. I like it.
I got all the way up to 6,790, 6,790 watts, 2.5 times the highest recorded power output on that bike before. Now, there was no technical glitches, there was no unique circumstances, and Dr. Coyle and his postgrad students were as surprised as I was when he told me that 2,400 was the record. I was still warming up, and I hit 4,000 pretty easily just by a couple of pushes of the legs. Now, I want to contextualize this a little bit, because does this mean I would be the best cyclist of all time immediately? Absolutely not. And let me explain why. Maximum power is in a very brief moment in time, an instantaneous moment. That doesn't give any sort of indication that you're able to replicate this result over and over and over. So I'm going to compare myself to the person who did 2,400 watts as an Olympic lifter at 200 pounds. That momentary power of 2400 watts, if we regulated to body weight, which I am about 1.5 times the body weight, we then reduce my power output to 4,533, meaning that now I am about 75% more powerful. We then have to calculate and consider the weight of my legs. As I drop my leg and I push around, that weight is going to naturally be helpful and generate its own power just by falling into the pedal. Let's say my leg is 30% heavier than his. Well, I'm able to put 30% more weight into the bike, turning the wheel, and 30% more power. Now, I'm justifying this because I know a certain special someone named Greg Doucette is very interested in cycling and very excited about this video. We were arguing over text yesterday of how this is possible. If we consider that my result is 75% better than an Olympic lifter who reached 2400 watts, and then we consider that my leg is slightly heavier, well, substantially heavier, let's say 50%, now this number comes down and I might be, in terms of just pure mathematics by body weight, 30% more powerful than an Olympic lifter. Does this make sense? Do I have 30% more power? Not necessarily. There are a couple of things that are really important to note about this bike. It's not like the bike you use at the gym. When you use a bike at the gym and it gives you some sort of power output, no matter how hard and how fast you go, this is going to use some sort of calculation based on your speed over a period of time. Now, this period of time could be as short as 1 second, but it is impossible to maintain your peak power output for a full second. This is almost like saying an Olympic lifter who jerks 200 kilos could jerk 200 kilos 10 times. If we think that the transition phase when you're most powerful in the jerk takes 0.1 seconds, of course, that's nonsense. If you ask them to jerk 10 bars in a row with no rest time at all, that 200 kilos might go down to 140 kilos in terms of launching it to the exact same position 10 times. It also doesn't mean that I could accelerate a bike really quickly over any substantial period of time. Now, I could get it going very quickly, very fast, but that momentary power might take you from 0 to 3 kilometers an hour faster than anyone else. But it doesn't mean that from 3 kilometers an hour all the way up to 100 kilometers an hour, 50 kilometers an hour, that I would continue to produce that power output. Now, potentially the explanation as to why I'm so good in strongman is that I can generate more power than anyone else. And power is the expression of strength over time. If you can express your strength really, really quickly, this means that you can move weight and you can be more explosive. You can launch weight, especially with your legs, in the same fashion as the bike. Now, the one other thing about this bike, since this flywheel, it has no brake, it has no resistance, it just has its own weight, it's very important that as the wheel gets going, you're able to push hard at the exact right moment to accelerate the wheel. Almost like there's a little bit of momentum with the wheel going, just as your foot's coming around, and then you can push down, hammer down, and in this very, very, very brief moment, you maximize your power. Now, what could I maintain for a minute? I might be able to maintain 1,500 watts for a minute, something like that. But 6,800 nearly was my peak. And I broke the world record by literally 2.5 times. To me, the math works out. And I think the only reason I'm so far ahead of the world record is because not enough people in a similar category would be tested. If you took Thor or Tom or Lucas Hatton or other people in strongman who are very, very heavy with very, very powerful, explosive legs, you're going to see similar results. And the power and explosion that you're going to get from a 330 to 400 pound man is going to naturally be well in excess of a man who is 200 pounds, no matter how powerful that guy is. We can throw up more weight, we can launch weight higher in the air, and we work against our body weight to do it. To explain that, 200 pound guy with 200 pounds on his shoulders means that his legs have to push up 400 pounds worth to get that bar moving. 200 pounds on a 350 pound man means that person needs to get 550 pounds moving. So even if we lifted the same weight, we would still be more powerful because we have to work against our own body weight in order to move that weight. Anyway, that is that. Could I be a great cyclist? Short track? Maybe. I think it would be a lot of fun, but I'd have to find a way to maintain that power output for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, or not that power output, but some sort of reasonable power output to launch myself around the track. Potentially, I have another post-strongman career. This result is pretty crazy, but when it's done by a world-renowned expert who has no problem with it, who cannot explain it, it's hard not to believe. And I'll give you one more bit. I have an email from Dr. Coyle himself saying that the flywheel that I used wasn't heavy enough for me, so it didn't accurately measure what my peak power would be, which would be higher because the pedals got ahead of my feet faster than my power was done. My power was still climbing as the wheel spun out of control and off of my feet. Thank you very much for watching. Maybe we have an explanation as to why I'm good at strongman. Maybe other strongmen could come and kick my ass, but what I know is this test is now the record of Mitchell Hooper. Thank you very much for watching. As per usual, lift heavy, be kind. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. Do you think this is true? Do you think this could be true? Tell Greg to be nice because he is about to make a response video. I can almost guarantee it. But Greg, cope.